se han conectado, han estado presentes, han hecho la tarea, se han realmente hecho parte de la energía que tenemos aquí. Y una vez más, para recibir a Robin Sharma, el aplauso es para ustedes. Un fuerte aplauso para todos ustedes. Que no sea la última vez que nos vemos, si les parece bien. Seguiremos aquí tratando de impactar y cambiar vidas. Robin, are you ready? Please come to, well, join me on stage. So once again, welcome.
Viva Mexico!
Viva Mexico! He was telling me that he speaks Spanish. Not really. A couple of words. Now, the people is very excited about having you here. And for me, it was a surprise that you are from Africa, actually. It's great. But the most important part is, well, please, go.
Yeah, I'm Canadian.
You're Canadian, but you live in Africa for a while. You told me that. So I want to start with a very important question for the people that might not know you. Can we start with a story about who you are?
Well, first of all, congratulations to EXMA and everyone who has attended today. I believe that the leader who learns the most wins. And I think, victims make excuses, leaders deliver results.
Absolutely.
So for everyone who has come here to learn from all the speakers, there's a lot of volatility in the world coming up. And I think the best way to handle all the volatility is to learn and make yourself stronger professionally and personally. So I'm a father of 2 children. I'm a partner, a son, and I teach leadership, I teach personal development. This is my 28th year in the field, and it's just great to be here in Mexico City.
Actually, you're very well recognized as leaders of leaders. And you have been training a lot of people, from celebrities to politicians. You train a lot of people. What is that thing in common that people get stuck into? Most common.
Well, I think victims make excuses, leaders deliver results. So I was interviewed recently. I've been traveling to a lot of different countries, giving leadership presentations, and someone from the media asked me a question. They said, Robin, you write these books about possibility, you write these books about habits, you write these books about leadership, you write these books about elite performance. But she said, how can we achieve success given the system? So she was giving her power to the system. And so what I would say is, what limits people are excuses. And beneath our excuses lives fear and lives our programming. So when you hear people say, this is a time of great opportunity, though there's a lot of volatility, a lot of people say, oh, that wouldn't work. Or they say, I can't get up at 5 a.m. Or I can't manage my schedule, or I can't launch that startup, or I can't run a marathon, or I can't find love. Well, if you recite your excuses long enough, you actually hypnotize yourself to believe they're real. So what holds people back are excuses. Number 2, our programming. Our parents tell us, be reasonable. One of my favorite quotes, Fernando, is from George Bernard Shaw. And George Bernard Shaw said, the reasonable man, obviously woman, but his words were, the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in adapting the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. So, we have this programming from our parents, from society, that the Federers and the Carlos Slims and the Checo
Paris,
right?
Yeah.
And the Del Toros and the Salma Hayeks and the Carlos Santanas and the Serena Williams and the Jean-Michel Basquiats, we have this programming that they're cut from a different cloth, but that's not true. And in my books I say, to have the results only 5% of the population has, we've got to be willing to do what 95% of the population is unwilling to do. So I would say, be really careful about your excuses. Have a look at your fears, and the fears you don't face become your walls.
Wow.
Right? The fears you don't, and I would also say failure is the price of ambition. So when I mentor the billionaires and the sports stars, these people understand that failure is the price of ambition. They don't even see it as failure. They don't mind getting bloodied. They're very resilient. For every one of the 2,000 people in the room, how do you build resilience? You get knocked down, you get hurt, you dust yourself off, and you keep on going. And if you do it long enough, it's a practice. And you practice getting up, and you practice continuing. And eventually you get very good at it.
I want to connect this answer with something that is still in the mind of a lot of people. We are coming from the COVID-19 thing in Mexico. It was very hard actually, because it longs like forever. Like forever. And there's a lot of people listening to you right now saying, okay, yes, I really want to get up, but I feel stuck right now. I lost a lot of different stuff. Maybe my enterprise, maybe my job. So what is the best advice that you could give the people that still feeling that kind of stuck?
I would say, first of all, this is the greatest time in the history of humanity to be alive. So when people are terrified, I mean, look in business. You know, a lot of the people here in the room are business people and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So look at businesses right now. They're not hiring, they're not innovating, they're not spending, they're not growing. This is the time to win. So many people are I want to face everyone if I may.
Yeah, please.
I just want
Let's do that.
to see everyone here. I think maybe if we do this, it's a little. So I think this is when you can win. I mean, so many people, I believe in addiction to distraction is the death of your creative production. So many people are spending the best hours of their finest days playing with their phones. So many people are busy being busy. So many people are scared. People are in overwhelm. People are not, I'm generalizing, but not innovating as much. This is the time for you to win. This is the time for you to build your skills, your wisdom. This is the time to serve the world. You know, when I was growing up, my father said to me, he said, Robin, when you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. He said, Robin, live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice. And to me, leadership is about service. And there are so many good souls who are just checked out. They're scared, they're tired, they're overwhelmed, they're exhausted. And so this is, I truly, this is a brave act to be here for Exma Holistic. It's a brave act because I believe that for you to grow, part of you must die. For you to become who you want to be, who you were must experience a crucifixion, so there's a resurrection of who you truly can be. And so learning is a dangerous, gorgeous act. For you to say, I'm going to listen to these speakers, I'm going to learn the ideas. I was watching the audience. It's almost 6:30 at night.
Yeah, on a Saturday.
Pardon me?
Saturday, I need Saturday.
On a Saturday, it's 6:30 at night, and I looked, almost no one was moving. So this, I come from very humble beginnings. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth, but it's a very simple idea. But I believe education is inoculation against disruption. And I believe if you don't know how to do something, you can learn how to do something. And so learning is so powerful.
So, listening to you about learning and failures, and of course, developing a new you. And of course, maybe a lot of people here, they have read your books, have read 3 of them. So what is that time in your life that you can remember as the one that really makes you a better person, or the biggest lesson that you have to learn?
Oh, I try to maintain a white belt mentality. I think one of the greatest dangers in business is you think you're an expert. Because an expert thinks they know all the answers. The people who win in business, the people who win in life, have a white belt mentality. And so it's a huge trap, because when you are most successful, you're most vulnerable. When you are successful, you stop getting up at 5 a.m. When you are successful, you take your customers for granted. When you are successful, you stop coming to events like this. When you are successful, you lose the edge. And I think that the greatest sports champions, for example, they understand that the secret to legendary is longevity. So it's not successful for a day, it's successful for a career. And so the lessons, I try to always be learning lessons, but I've gone through a lot of very hard times in my life. And Rumi, the great philosopher, he says, keep breaking your heart over and over again until it opens.
Oh, wow.
Well, I shouldn't say thank you, it's Rumi's quote. But I've gone through difficulties. I've had personal challenges. In business, in business, you're going to have challenges. Like, just let's speak candidly here, suppliers are going to disappoint you. They're going to promise you the world, and they're going to disappoint you. People you trust on your team are going to disappoint you. So I've had a lot of difficulties, and I've been at the bottom of the mountain, and I've been at the top of the mountain. And what I've learned is I've learned very little from success.
Wow.
The time in the sunshine, it's fun.
Yeah.
And we all want the time at the top of the mountain, right?
Yes.
And what I've found is, and this is very counterintuitive advice, but you're smart and you're fast and you're a great audience. And I love being in Mexico, the culture, the food, everything. But you know what I'd say? When you're going through a difficult time, stay in it personally. Because when you are in a difficult time, let's say personally, that's when your fears come on.
Yeah.
And you can work through those fears. You can pray, you can meditate, you can visualize, you can journal, you can work with a healer, and you can actually release the limitations. Now, in my books, for example, in the 5 a.m. Club and in the latest book, The Everyday Hero Manifesto, so many people talk about mindset. I believe there are actually 4 inner areas to work on. Let's say going through a difficult time.
Yeah.
So mindset is your psychology. And of course that's important.
Yeah.
You want to release the programming of scarcity, release the programming of selfishness, release the programming of fear, release the programming of limitation, release the programming of undeservability. So you go out in the marketplace.
Yeah, we all have a lot of programs, correct? Like, we have the programs in there.
We see the world not as it is, we see the world as we are. And we create so much of life. So working through your mindset is very important, because your daily behavior reflects your deepest beliefs. But mindset is only 25% of the personal mastery equation. Mm-hmm. in my methodology, I also teach a word called heart set. You can have a great mindset, you know, you're positive, you're focused, you believe in possibility, you're daring. But if your heart is full of anger, if your emotional life is full of disappointment and sadness and you haven't released it, that's going to affect your energy, your productivity, your creativity. I'm going to feel it. If
Your health.
it's going, of course, it'll increase inflammation. So it's mindset, heart set, health set. That's your physicality. Energy is more important than intelligence in business and in life. And then there's the fourth interior empire, which is your soul set. Now, people might say, why is soul set important? I'm a business person, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to build a great company, I want to impact the marketplace. Your soul set, and I'm not talking about religion.
I know it's
But I think we have an ego.
bigger.
Pardon me?
It's bigger, no? Talking about soul set is it's very, very hard to understand, but it's very useful when you understand it.
Well, it's so relevant in business and in life because as we go through life, we get hurt and we start to close down. And that forms an ego. And the ego, we all have an ego, that wounded, fearful part of ourselves. Because of our ego, we're not generous. And if you're not generous, the world is not going to beat a path to your door. So your soul set is simply doing the inner work where you turn down the voice of your ego so you see your not egoic self, but your heroic self. And we all have a heroic self.
Where is the ego? Where is the hero? Like something in between?
Well, I would say there have been people who've walked the planet, you know, the great women and men of the world who released their ego. So they were all light, and that's why we call them enlightened.
Yeah.
But I think most of us, to varying degrees, we have an ego, but I think the best leaders are the ones who say, you know, it's not all about me, it's how can I serve? And I'll be very practical. There's an acronym I have, it's called ABDOV, always be delivering outrageous value. So the company that delivers magic to the marketplace is the company that wins. Most businesses are not in the magic business. Most businesses, it's about how much money can I get from the customer and deliver as little value as possible. ABDOV is always be delivering outrageous value. Another way to look at it, I call it the 10x value obsession. Sit down with your team and do an inventory and ask yourself, at every touch point that the customer does business with me, how can we give them 10 times more value than they're expecting? So the leader who is the most generous wins. I spent 4 years writing the 5 a.m. Club because I wanted it to be, I want every word to be the best I could. The latest book, The Everyday Hero Manifesto, 16 months in the pandemic, I rewrote it maybe 21 times. But I wanted every piece to be as good as possible. So, because ultimately, everything we put out into the marketplace has our good name on it. And you cannot put a price tag on having a good reputation.
And that is very important right now because there's a lot of generations, people, maybe not just the 18 to 20 people years old, but also some of us, that we want everything at speed. We want everything like the results, and if we are producing a book, how can I make it in 3 months? So patience is a virtue.
If you want to win in business, slow down. Slow down. It's better to produce one Taj Mahal than 1,000 mediocrities.
Wow.
It took Shah Jahan 21 years to build the Taj Mahal. As I was doing my research for this wonderful audience, I learned that the tallest pyramid in the world is not in Egypt, it's in Mexico. The greatness, masterwork takes time. If you look at the great artists, they spent years refining every single stroke. Michelangelo, I saw the previous speaker, he showed the Sistine Chapel ceiling. It took Michelangelo 4 years of his life to create the fresco, the ceiling in the Sistine Chapel ceiling. So, push beauty in the world. Slow down in this world where, see, that's the thing about technology. Technology is a fantastic servant and it's a terrible master. And there's lots of research, and what's happening is because of we're snacking on content, we're snacking on TikTok, we scroll constantly. That's how we read now, we scroll. As a result of that, it's creating a brain and a way of processing information that's very quick. And that's the power of reading. Sitting down and reading for an hour every night, I call it the 60-minute student. Because as you slow things down, you shift from a superficial approach to what I call a granular approach. Your conversations with your team or your customers or your family are deeper. See, if you study, and I know you have, Fernanda, but if you study the great geniuses, they all had a few things in common. Number one, they all, in a world where we're always in the world, the great geniuses, they all understood the power of solitude. They all had a seaside cottage. They all had a writing room. Secondly, the great geniuses spent hours and days in deep focus on one project. So I think we live in a world where so many of us are so busy, and it's coming from fear. We need to put out a lot of content, a lot of products, because we think we'll be left behind. I would say, when I mentor the billionaires, they're contrarians. They invest in businesses no one else does.
Wow.
You know, even I was reading about Carlos Slim.
Yeah.
He made part of his fortune when the economy fell apart. He bought distressed businesses and he made his fortune. So look at what most people do the opposite, you'll probably be very successful.
So this is a commitment to all the people that is here in the room, because when you read the statistics in Mexico actually, the per capita of books we read every year, or we are reading every year, is 2.1 books per year. So that's not enough. It's very few books. So one of the commitments that we should do here, all of us together, is reading a little bit more. Let's say 3. What do you think about that? That's good?
Well, I would say to double your income, and impact, triple your investment in 2 core areas, your personal mastery and your professional ability. So why is personal development important? Because you can never go any higher than your personal development. We blame right now there's a lot of volatility in the world, and I'm sorry, but I have to be honest, this is just the beginning.
Yes.
We're entering a cycle of the next 50 years that are going to be unlike, see, if you look at any good psychologist, they'll talk to you about normalcy bias. Normalcy bias is the human inclination to think that the way things were will be the way things will be in the future. I think the next 50 years are going to be fundamentally different than they were in the past. So how do you handle the stress of the world? How do you stay productive in a world where there's so much going on? How do you find the time to push magic in the marketplace when we're being pulled in so many different directions? You work on yourself. You work on, in the 5 AM Club, mindset, heart set, health set, and soul set. And then you become like a great master. The ability of a great spiritual master is the world could be falling apart, and you are strong and centered and brave in the middle of the storm. So like the great spiritual masters, they say, I am in the world, but not of it. So work on your personal development, we can get into some tools, and then work on your professional ability. This is what I call a gargantuan competitive advantage. I mean, when was the last time you went to a coffee shop? When was the last time you were on an airplane? When was the last time you went to a hotel? When was the last time you did business with someone and you felt that you were dealing with someone who knew more about their craft than anyone who has performed their craft? Steve Martin, the great comedian, was asked by a young comedian, how can I be as great as you? And he said, be so good at what you do that we cannot ignore you.
Yeah.
But how many people, and let's say in terms of in your craft, study the craft every day, have a mentor, go to the courses, do the online courses, each day a little bit better. Most of us, we're too busy watching TV, playing with our phones, gossiping, and chit-chatting. And what I would say is life, I'm going to get a little philosophical, Fernando, but
Please.
if I'm lucky, I have 25 summers left of my life. You mentioned the pandemic, what it taught us is everything could go tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And so life is extremely fragile, but most of us live as if we have all the time in the world. And I think if you can develop the ability each morning as part of your morning practice to connect with the shortness of life, maybe through prayer, maybe through reading the meditations of Marcus Aurelius, maybe through journaling, which I love doing every day. But it makes me think of, there was an Indian Maharaja, and every morning he would celebrate his funeral, complete with flowers and music. And all the while, Fernando, he'd be chanting, I have lived fully, I have lived fully, I have lived fully. And I couldn't understand why this man would do that. And then I went to my father, who is 85 years old, and he's a great source of wisdom in my life. And I said, Dad, why would this man do that? And he said, Robin, this man has developed a morning practice to connect him to his mortality. And I don't think speaking about the shortness of life is depressing. I think it's inspiring. Because once we realize that we could die tomorrow, we could die 50 years from now, with the advances of biohacking, we could die 100 years from now. But life is very fragile. And the more we can become intimate with our mortality, the more we live to the point. I think you can change the world or play with your phone. You can't do both.
That's a terrific answer that I think gives me the right connection to my next question, and it's we often hear you say about that everything happens twice, first in your mind and then in reality. So how to make it happen? How does works?
Well, I wrote that in The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and that book is 26 years old.
Yes, it is.
So I think I have to admit...
26? Wow.
It was 26, I think I wrote it 26 years ago. So I think I simplified it in that book. And I would say, if you want to make things happen, there's a lot of things you have to do. You have to have a vision. And if your vision doesn't scare you, then your vision is too small. You want a vision, and what I would also say, you want a vision that lights you up. That lights you up, because when you are lit up, then you light the world up. And the world needs more light. But it's not only a vision, because ideation without execution amounts to a delusion. So you need a good vision, and then you need a great team. You can't do it alone. So I would also say, the bigger the dream, the more important your team. And build what I call a team of Picassos. You want amazing people on your team. And then along with a great team, you need a great strategy. And then along with that, you need to execute. And that's where the 5 a.m. Club is so powerful. We can talk about it and the 20-20-20 formula. Yeah. But getting up early and running that practice gives you energy. And when you have energy, you then can execute on ideas, because I think energy is more important and valuable than intelligence. And then, I mean, we could talk about execution and getting things done. I mean, resilience. Most people, they share an idea, and as soon as they have a great idea as a result of eczema, they go home, they say, Mama, or husband, or boyfriend, or girlfriend, or best friend, I'm gonna build $1 billion company. I'm gonna build a movement. As a result of this, I'm gonna fast, or I'm gonna run a marathon, and as soon as the critic, I mean, most people have energy vampires in their lives. And so, one of the most important things you can do is strip out the negative people from your life. It sounds so simple, but another idea, how do you get things done? You surround yourself with people who support your dreams and your vision and your hopes. And please also remember, let's go to the science of Nicholas Christakis at Harvard University.
Very great teacher.
Great teacher. And what he's found is, and this is really powerful, but we don't only become like our friends. We are deeply influenced by the friends of our friends and the friends of our friends' friends. And let's go to some more science. It's called emotional contagion. We pick up the dominant emotions of the people we spend time with. And let's also talk about a type of brain cell called the mirror neuron. It has served us so well because when we were on the savannah thousands of years ago and the chief developed a new tool, automatically and subconsciously, the mirror neuron would cause us to mimic the behavior of the chief. Now we're in the modern world, we mimic the behavior of the people we surround ourselves with. So if you are not around excellent, positive, supportive, healthy people, and if you are around toxic people and people who complain and make excuses, they are going to affect your mindset, your heart set, your health set, and your soul set.
That's one of the good things here in this auditorium. You guys, you have the opportunity during the day to create a strong network, because the people that is in this room, people that you know and people that you might not know, you are connected through the same values and through the same dreams. Use that wisely, please. Connect with the people in this auditorium. Don't leave the room without making another connection, a new connection. It's going to be important. And that's the only philosophy of Nicholas Christakis, that it's great. So, there's a lot of people in the auditorium that they have maybe read the 5 a.m. Club. I'm pretty much sure. Please raise your hands. But there's some other people that they are asking, what is the 20-20-20 formula? Read the book. You can buy it in here.
Well, I would say the 5 a.m. Club is a little bit of a backstory. The 5 a.m. Club is a methodology I've been teaching FedEx, IBM, Oracle, etc. And why should you get up at 5 a.m.? Well, if you look at many of the great entrepreneurs, many of the great business executives, Tim Cook of Apple, is a member of the 5 a.m. Club, for example. Stephen King, the artist. Nelson Mandela used to get up at, I mean, you talk about excuses. Nelson Mandela was on Robin Island for 18 years, and he would get up at 5 a.m., do his prayers, and he would do push-ups every morning in his prison cell. And we say, I'm saying today, with great love and respect, win the battle of the bed, put mind over mattress, and join the 5 a.m. Club. And let's go to some science. University College of London has found, please write this down, it's very important. University College London has found that it takes 66 days approximately to install a new skill or habit. 66 days. Most of us, what do? We come to a conference, we execute on the ideas for a week, and then we say it was hard, And so we stop. And we blame the speaker, and we say, it didn't work. Write this down. No idea works if you don't do the work. I'd also say, all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, gorgeous at the end. I'll repeat that again because it's powerful. All change is hard at first, messy in the middle, gorgeous at the end. From the speakers today, and I know Vishen is coming up as well, but from all the speakers you've heard, please know, let's be honest, when you go home, it's going to be hard. And if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be valuable change. But you have a gift. And I'm not going to talk about metaphysical gifts. You have a gift. And the gift that every one of the 2,000 people here on this special day in Mexico City, the gift that you have, one of them, is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity, as you know, is the ability of the human brain to adapt and grow to training and new circumstances. And so, getting up at 5 a.m., it's going to be hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And if you stay with it for about 66 days, you will reach what's willpower researchers call the automaticity point, where it actually becomes easier to do the new skill than to not do the new skill. I was listening to a trainer of a boxer, an MMA fighter, and he said, I trained my fighters to do these habits until they just could not do the wrong thing. I'm going to pause and let that sink in. Practice your core habits long enough until you simply cannot do the new habit. Now, why should you get up at 5 a.m.? Well, we live in the age of dramatic distraction. You get up at 5 a.m., you have peace, you can think. We can talk about the 20-20-20 formula that I go very deep on in the book, but you can see the way you start your day sets the tone for your day. On the days that I don't get up at 5 a.m., my day is significantly worse. On the day that I do get up at 5 a.m. and run my protocol, and I usually get up about 4 a.m. these days.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to
That's
sleep
my
at
sequel.
what?
That's my sequel. Though.
Going to sleep at 7, 8?
I go to sleep at about, these days, about between 10 and 11. But getting up at 5 a.m. and giving yourself 1 hour, what I call the victory hour, to prepare yourself for the day is powerful. The Spartan warriors say, sweat more in training and you'll bleed less in war.
Wow. Wow. A round of applause for Robin, please. I really want to talk a little bit. You were saying that you want to talk maybe about spirituality, but you, in your online videos, you mention very often one word, and it's success without soulfulness is an empty victory. Could you please tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you know, I've mentored billionaires in mansions, and they're all alone. So, I think this is year number 28, working with many of the most successful entrepreneurs, athletes, movement makers in the world. And I just want to say from the deepest place within me, if you have fallen into the human seduction in our society right now, where you think that having something on the outside will change the way you feel on the inside, you're kidding yourself. Because, like I said, I've worked with so many people who have all the money in the world, and they have lots of money, but that's all they have. And Emerson said it very well. He said, without the rich heart, wealth is an ugly beggar. And let's again go to the research. Sonia Lyubomirsky, preeminent positive psychologist, Fernando, this is powerful. She, in her research on happiness, she's found that people who make $6 million a year are only incrementally happier than blue-collar workers. And so, is there anything wrong with making money? Of course not. You can give to people, you can do beautiful things for your family, you can make the world better. How many people like a beautiful hotel room? How many people would like to, eat at, is it Pollo? Pollo?
Yeah.
This is a very short trip, but on my next trip I'm gonna definitely eat at Pollo. But, of course there's nothing wrong with abundance. There's nothing wrong with beautiful things. But don't let them become your God. To me, FFA, I write about this in my latest book, The Everyday Hero Manifesto, and I only mention it because I think it's powerful. FFA, fame, fortune, and applause, that's what the social platforms of the world have told us are so important. Fame, fortune, and applause. There's something so much more powerful. JPF. And this is the real wealth. Joy, peace, and freedom. Joy, peace, and freedom.
Wow. That's great. It's a great formula. Time flies, and I just have a couple of additional questions. Number one, I think that a lot of the people is going to be interested on is about mentors. Do you have a mentor? And what is your recommendation of the importance of having one mentor in life?
Well, I would say mentors are extraordinarily important. If you don't have a mentor, get a mentor. It could be through online courses. It could be someone who you admire, let's say in business. It's amazing. I think about Instagram, for example. You can connect with some of the greatest giants in the world by sending them a DM. It's incredible. Technology intelligently and wisely used is amazing. You can build friendships with people who can become your mentors. I also have a lot of dead mentors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when I read Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela, when I read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, when I read Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, when I read the biography I recently read about Aristotle Onassis, I'm having a conversation with the author. I can find out how she thought, how he dealt with adversity, how they lived, what their habits were. So find a mentor. When I was 21, there was a bond trader who lived a few houses away from me. And it was so interesting. I was in law school. And 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he was sitting in the sunshine. So I became very good friends with him. And he told me, he became a mentor, and he shared something that has been so powerful to me. Just one of the things he taught me, he said, Robin, run your own race. And that has stayed with me. I mean, what is success? It's living life on your terms, not the definition of society. Warren Buffett said, live your life according to your own scoreboard. So mentors are incredibly important because I grew up in a very small little house. I didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't fit in with people in school. I became a lawyer for all the wrong reasons. I made a lot of money, but I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror and I didn't like the person who was looking back. But thanks to mentors. I read the books. I was afraid of public speaking. Incredibly afraid of public speaking. I read books on public speaking. So whatever it is that is limiting you, in a book, in an audiobook, in an online course with a coach are your answers. Find that person or those people.
Of course, in Exma. You're always welcome here. This is your home. One final recommendation to all the people that it's coming from Mexico. México, ¿quién viene de México? People from Colombia, ¿quién viene de Colombia? People from Venezuela, people from Nicaragua, people from, where else? We have people from Dominican Republic, Ecuador, people from Ecuador. We in Latin America, we always live in crisis. And when you live in crisis, there's like this profound belief that things are not really, there's no hope to make great things. And I don't know why, but it's not my idea. There's statistics about that. We are a Latin American soccer team, and we're in the final of a very important game. The idea of my team is going to miss the final penalty isn't there. How to get out of that mindset and start developing a new mindset and of course a new life?
Well, the first thing I'd say, and this quote has been attributed to Winston Churchill and many other people, but the quote, and please write this down, it's powerful, never waste a good crisis.
That's important.
That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is victims are frightened by change. Leaders are inspired by change. Heroes emerge in crisis. In business, in life, when the world is falling apart, that's when heroes emerge, second point. Third thing, let's go to the great athletes. The great athletes are the people, I think of Kobe Bryant. Literally, they were, let's say when he was part of the Lakers, they were behind, let's say 30 points. And if you listen to people who played against Kobe, they said, we were losing so badly, it was a crisis, we wanted to give up, and it's like a switch flipped inside of him, and he just brought on his fire and scored 50 points, 60 points, 81 points, I believe, in one game.
Yeah.
And so, how do you do that? Oh, Kobe. Robin, you're talking about Kobe. I know Kobe. Oh, Robin, you're talking about Federer. I know Federer. Robin, you're talking about Steve Jobs. Or I know Steve Jobs, or Mother Teresa, or Hedy Lamarr. Well, let's look at Kobe. Kobe said, most people get in the NBA, or I paraphrase it, but many people get in the NBA, you think they'd be practicing all day. No, a lot of people get in the NBA and they say, I'm in the NBA, I've made it. And they start to coast. In the Everyday Hero Manifesto, there's a chapter, it's called The Titan's Decline. Kobe would work out at 4 a.m., and then he'd do another workout at 11 a.m., then he'd do another workout at 1 o'clock, and another workout. And what he said was, I would practice so much every day and do it day after day after day, because consistency is the mother of mastery. And when I practiced that much, more than everyone else, over years, I built an advantage that no one else could come near. Now here's the key point for every one of you. And I say this with great love and respect. Games are won before you put a foot on the court. You want to practice your craft so many times that in the pressure, I'm giving a metaphor, but you want to practice and meditate and journal and pray and read and do all the things I talk about in my books. 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's your practice hour. So that in the pressure moment, when all the spotlights are on you, you literally go like that and sinks, and you win the big game. You win the championship because you've made that shot a million times.
It's not just mentality. It's mentality, is repetition, developing the habit, the sacrifice, and the connection. Robin, thank you very much for being here. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Can we have a picture with the audience? So if you can just stand up for a final picture. Let's take a selfie here.